Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is early Sunday morning, December 19th, 2021, and this is a partial recording and sharing of the information that is in Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, level 1, lesson 2. So in the time frame that I have for giving the class lecture this morning, I do not even have enough time to add in all 4 segments of what is in lesson 2 of level 1. If you are a member of this class and you've already done the initial lessons, I really urge you go back and go over the stuff because it is worth the repeat. It's like watching a really good movie again. You will see and get subtleties that will come back to you and you'll see things from a new perspective. And when I recorded it, I put so much information into it. There's 4 half-hour segments. So today, not to give a minimal treatment to anything that's information of this class, what I'm going to do is for the next roughly hour and 15 minutes, talk about portions of lesson 2. On Tuesday at 11 a.m., the live lectures will continue for our class, and that will be hopefully steady going forward for the rest of this webinar semester. And I'm going to do the rest of level 1. And I don't even know if I will be able to get to level 2, but I will then get to level 2 next week. So I want to say, instead of rushing through, I've been rushing through my life, being in traffic on the highways a lot. Let us go at a sensible pace because I think that is how our digestion works best, comprehension works best. And although we are on a spiritual marathon, I think it is a marathon of your personal best, not an attempt to somehow beat the clock, like, oh, we have to get this going, otherwise ascension is going to be delayed. Let us please not act in that way and know that things are in a divine synchronization and timing. So that is how I am doing this. So yes, as I've been preparing for the lectures of this semester, I've been going back over all of my notes and videos from previous semesters and kind of refreshing in my mind what this is. And there's so much there, and it's so profound that I truly want to give a good, what would I say, focus time and attention to what is actually there. So right now, hold on a minute. I know I'm doing this on screen. I want to pull up a couple of pictures. Let's do this one. Good. And let me do one more. I know I'm going to make those squinty scrolly faces that I always laugh about. This one and this one. And then I'm going to do share screen so you can see what I'm talking about. This is all about, this presentation in lesson 2 is all about the shape. And again, many of my sculptures are still in storage as I'm apartment hunting and finding better, life situations and everything. So I just don't have access to everything. So thank you for your understanding and accommodation on that. And I'll get those sculptures available very soon. The shape, as I get to some of these images here. I'm just going to make this into me. I have to clear away stuff like this. And now I will move this over to here so you can see. I should want to do that, but I also want to move this over here so you can see better because I know things are overlapping. And I know the presentation is going to come back up from here. But anyway, I will wiggle my cursor. And pardon me while I drink some of my decaf coffee because we're recording very early this morning. The shape is exemplified by this picture that I'm wiggling my cursor over here. The 4 vortex shape that is the basic precursor to flying rainbow lasagna. So if we talk in math terms, what cube is to tesseract, this Taurus shape is to flying rainbow lasagna. It is the lower dimensional, the Taurus is the lower dimensional state of the flying rainbow lasagna, which is the higher dimensional state. When I first started recording this information, the Taurus shape was not that well known. This was back in 2013. It's quite a long time ago in terms of human consciousness development. Now people are very, very highly aware of what the Taurus shape is and maybe more of its significance. So one big thing that I would like to say is in understanding the chakras of the body, the energy centers and how they relate to the body. In maps or drawings, they are often shown and depicted as glowing balls of light or just colorful entities up and down along the spine or the midline of the anthropomorphic humanoid body. They are much more than that. They have a structure and an energy to them, energy pathways in terms of like a pathway or a road. There we go. Now I can annotate a pathway or a road that you walk upon. So each one of these places on the body where the chakras converge, these convergence points are truly, they're central points of larger emanations. And the larger emanations have, like, imagine a skeleton, like a form, a way that energy flows. So first of all, this Taurus shape, I will highlight it here. I have this drawing up because it's a good example of it. And you know that my pen doesn't work perfectly in the digital world. I'm much better at drawing with just a regular pencil, but I'm highlighting here kind of a very bumpy Taurus shape. The Taurus is that big apple core shape or a big giant donut shape. You can tell it's not doing that great. There and there. That is what a Taurus is, and the multiple linguistic term for many Tauruses is Tauri, if you want to be really perfect about it. This Taurus shape, so this would be considered one or half of one apple core shape. And this over here, you can see that there are two. They're at 90-degree angles. So we have one that's oriented vertically, quote unquote, one that is oriented horizontally. And when you have those shapes put together in that sense, what you have is one complete chakra or energy center of your body. And again, I am showing you flat, non-moving pictures of something that is three-dimensional or formed, has a presence beyond a flatness of a piece of paper, and moving, that would mean fourth dimensional and higher. What are these tori that are surrounding and interpenetrating our bodies made of? They are made of time, of energy, of pure consciousness. Let me just keep on. They are made of abstract awareness, possibilities, probabilities, and a type of light that is defined as the light of pure awareness, as opposed to the light of merely the physical structure. I'll go back to my face. Just the light of the physical structure that we perceive with our eyes. So to be really clear, the Roy G. Biv light that we perceive with our physical retinas and perception of our brain mind is only a very limited slice of the frequency pie of what is available. Infrared is a similar level of energy, but we don't see it with our eyes, but we feel it as heat on your skin. And then there's ultraviolet and X-ray beyond. All of these things we don't see with our eyes. Like if you looked at an X-ray machine, you might get irradiated in your eyeballs, but you would not see it like rays coming out. So we have a limited view of the colors of the rainbow that does not map directly to the colors of the chakras. So all of this now we're going into levels of analogy when we're talking about frequency and visible light. Your inner eye, however, can see this higher dimensional level of light. Your inner eye is exemplified when I point to this aspect of my forehead and to the inner architecture of my neurology or brain mind, and also the chakra that is a projection or an energy field that emanates from the physicality structure and the consciousness structure that is within. When that inner eye is activated and fully present and let's say fully seeing with acuity, yes, you do quote unquote see energy. This might be experienced as reading. It is an insight. It is pure understanding beyond words. It is perception of people and their bodies beyond their physicality. And people have different systems of interpretation when they perceive this energy, some of which might be auditory or sonic, hearing tones, some of which might coincide with colors of the rainbow. Like if you might be a medical intuitive and you read a person and you read something happening at the level of orange, then you are recognizing it's something at the level of human mammalian emotions, the guts and the reproductive organs and all of that, but you're not necessarily seeing an orange beam of light shooting out of their belly button or, below their navel. So this is a good distinction to make. And that in this world that we are in right now, the world of objective materialistic science, and that's really basically the perception academic approach, that only looks at what we can sense with our five senses. It does not look at what we can sense with our eye of insight up here. That would be considered more a quote unquote spiritual approach, something like the world of Taoism or Hinduism or one of these spiritual or philosophical cultures that recognizes and has even studied and objectified at times the energy presences of light that are beyond what we can see with our physical eyes. But if the world of objective science that only deals with the five regular senses, not ESP, extrasensory perception, cannot see something or weigh it on a scale or measure it in some way, then there is really no conversation that that world of mentation can have about it. So understand that we're in this bifurcated reality, but science is catching up, where you might be an insight, intuitive person seeing these true levels of reality. That's a direct perception of time, a direct perception of possibilities and probabilities and mathematical awarenesses and what is happening on the level of pure abstraction, and even direct perception of DNA, but that you might not be validated by the scientific world or the objective materialist perspective. This Taurus shape is an abstract shape, meaning non-anthropomorphic, non-humanoid, and it exists at many different scales of reality. That when I say that, what I mean is it exists at an atomic level. I'm trying to make the tiniest little, showing you in my hand, like I can't make my hand small enough. The atom is very, very small. The tori exist at that level. They exist at the level of molecules, a molecular level that in our somatic cellular body would be considered at the level of DNA. And I'll get into that in this class, and also urge everyone to watch the videos, the recorded videos, because I go into that in very great detail. The torus also exists as the surrounding energy field around your individual humanoid body. It also exists around our planet. Let me do some drawings here. Oh, and someone's in the chat saying something. Billy says, thinking of a hyper Taurus or higher dimensional Taurus is very mind-blowing. The idea of rocking your socks and blowing your mind, that is what this is all about. Everything that I teach about in this class is pretty much preparation. So the earlier things are foundation concepts that I teach about in order to then, blow the doors of the mind with the actual flying rainbow lasagna presence. So it's very much like doing the musical homework of first learning the scales, learning the finger positions, and then being able to totally shred on the guitar. And we're shredding, quote unquote, on the genetic guitar. So I'm going to move to the whiteboard here. I'm going to do a lot of drawings for you today. Let's do a little drawing of you as a person. And in this class, I'm a good artist, but because the pens are not that great, digital pens, I work with stick figures. Okay, so here's you as a person, the humanoid form as a person, and you have a torus that goes all around you. And this is not accurate or drawn to scale. Please understand that. And now let's draw you on a planet. And that, please understand, I know that there are a lot of people that experiment with the concept of flat earth and things like that. And I just want you to know that in this presentation, like, I'm not a proponent of flat earth. I recognize that some people are questing on a different way of looking at reality, but I'm going to be talking about Earth as a sphere. I'm not a shill for NASA in any way. I'm not trying to prevent you from ascending or keeping you trapped in the matrix by giving you wrong or artificial information. I'm actually trying to give you highly accurate information that will help to inform your journey so that you are set free. And I have many, many intellectual and comprehension-based issues with the concept of flat Earth. That does not invalidate the concept of portals. Portals exist, energy fields exist, and understanding that we might be within a false matrix or artificial substrate. All of these truths I, validate completely, but not necessarily many of the models of flat Earth. Because as I present this information, someone's like, Aurora is saying the Earth is a ball, therefore I cannot even listen. Please set aside your own distastes and please listen, and please understand that that is where I'm coming from. So I am drawing Earth as a sphere. Oh, and now I'm trying to draw effectively with this drawing tool here. Oh, it's so difficult. You guys just gotta deal with my griping. I'm like, oh, I can't deal with this drawing. Can't deal with this. It's so hard to draw. that is the shorthand for a torus that is coming out of and around our whole planet. And of course, I'm drawing a cross section because you understand that this is a three-dimensional. Let me make some lines so that you can kind of get the sense of it's a torus, and these are spirals. That's a spiral of energy that is in this drawing, spiraling into the core of the planet. So inside of you, you have your energy core. And physically inside of the planet here, we have a crystalline core that is the center. There's magma all around here that is liquid in form. Then there is the heavily magnetic crystalline core. And that crystalline core, again, these are magnetic flows of energy. This lesson is all about electromagnetic fields that are emitted from things that science can and does perceive and recognize. So the magnetosphere that surrounds our planet is perceived and recognized by science. It is the end result of electromagnetic interactions between the crystalline core and the liquid mantle. It is made up of the whirling and swirling energy fields of matter and energy swirling amidst itself. In this way, your own toroidal structure is made of nothing more than energy swirling amidst itself. Because I'm trying to get the idea of what is the origin of this Taurus energy field? Where does it come from? It is energy. It is not just a giant liquefied, undifferentiated sea of energy. There are energy pathways. The energy form, pathways, and membranes are made of the energy whirling and swirling amidst itself. So you have a Taurus around your physicality presence. You are on a planet that has a physicality presence. That would be Earth, the third rock that we live upon. And then surrounding Earth, where I'm scribbling, there is a non-physical energy presence known as the magnetosphere. Now let's go, I'm erasing now. Now let's talk about the sun. I'll choose a sun color. Here is the sun, our sun star. The sun star has a portal in the center of it. That is where photons are birthed from. This is the sun's heliosphere. It is also shaped like a giant torus, a giant energy field. It is so big that it goes all the way out past Pluto and the other exoplanets or partially described planets. So like, here's Pluto, it's a little dot, all right? And then here's Jupiter over here. And then here's, the Earth and the other smaller rocky planets that are kind of inwards towards here. So let me change colors too. All of the planets that exist within the sun's heliosphere have their own magnetosphere. I actually just misspoke because it's not true that all of them do. All of them should. Because when you are alive, you have an energy field around you. I need to drink some more of my superfood coffee. Hold on. When you are alive, you have an energy field around you. When you have no energy field around you, you still have a corporeal presence, but there's no energy field and there's no motion in your DNA. You are what is known as dead. You are dead, you are a corpse. There are some planets in our inner solar system that are dead corpses. One of them is Mars, and one of them is Venus. They do not have energy fields around them. And then there's also the asteroid belt where I'm making a wiggly line. That does not have an energy presence either, and it's an exploded corpse, doesn't even have corporeal presence anymore. That is because the larger quote unquote guitar of our solar system has been not only the pegs twisted and detuned, but some of the strings completely removed or cut or taken off of the genetic and consciousness guitar. And that's what we're dealing with in terms of our journey of consciousness here. But when I draw these drawings right now in this class, I'm going to focus on divine perfection and give you a sense of the flow of energy through a torus, and then also the flow of consciousness through the solar system and the planets, and also the flow of consciousness through your own body, because I spoke about that in lesson 1. In impulse of light, wait, I'll go back to my face to do this. an impulse of light comes in through your crown chakra. That is where you connect to the higher dimensional cosmic intelligence presence, and it circulates through your eye of insight, your place of communication, the central clearinghouse of your heart, your solar plexus above your navel, the orange level below your navel, and down into your root chakra, which is also connected to your sacral chakra at the base of your spine. And that is an energy impulse coming from higher dimensional, less dense realms into physicality matter. Then, of course, we are also on the journey of taking our impulses and experiences, stimuli from the physicality world. That would be like either having a sensation like I'm touching my face or eating a food, and circulating that back up as a refinery of light, taking physicality stuff matter that is solidified light and refining the light out of it as it spirals and travels up our energy system to once again become pure energy and then exit or reconnect back to God, the divine presence, not an anthropomorphic God, the source that emanated us, and back into light. So we are refiners in a refinery of light, taking light, turning it into layers of light, turning it into matter, then taking matter and turning it back into layers of light, and then refocusing all those layers of light together into one white light beam, and then beaming that back to the source that emanated us. Now, wait, now I'm already on to talking about the source. Let me go back to my whiteboard. And again, apologies as I hydrate myself, my throat gets very dry. A big part of what I'm talking about in this particular class is all about the source. And the source in this drawing, the source is always the center of the torus. So I'm circling it right there. That's at the center of the sun in this case. In this model, it's the sun. So what I'm trying to get across to you is that the torus is a basic shape, that once you understand something about that shape on any scale, you can apply that understanding to all of the other scales where tori exist. So once you understand, wait a minute, there is a source at the center of the sun that is the presence from which consciousness emanates, then you can also understand, well, wait, there's a torus around the planet, therefore there is a source at the center of the planet. Well, wait a minute, there's a torus around me and my body, therefore there is a source within my body. Well, wait a minute, there's a torus around the molecular structure of my DNA, therefore there is a source within the molecular structure of my DNA. Well, wait, there's one on an atomic level. There is a source at the center of an atom. Like, let's draw a science model of an atom. Here's the nucleus of an atom. Here's an electron shell. Here's another electron shell. This is a cross section of something that is actually spherical. And these electron shell pathways are actually areas, fields of pure probability, not lines where a satellite is moving like the way your moon moves in orbit around your planet. Not like that at all. But please understand that in this atomic model, at the center of the nucleus of an atom, there is the source. So let me draw this for you, because this is also really profound. I want to get a fatter thing so you can kind of see it easier on your screen. Let's say this big black dot that I'm doing right here, that's the source. And I usually use this little figure 8 in order to exemplify that it is infinity. The definition of what the source is infinity, the overlappingness of everything. It is the zeroth dimension. And that point or place is at the center of all of these toroidal structures. This vortex over here where you see me making this is actually a stretching of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. In this lesson 2 of the level 1 stuff, you also will hear me talking for the very first time about this super stretchy fabric of time, space, and consciousness. So I'm drawing it as if it's a flat plane, but we're going to get more into the understanding that it is a sphere, like a stretchy beach ball or a balloon or something like that. And you can understand that you've got that stretchy fabric, and then here's the giant bowling ball, the infinitely heavy bowling ball of pure energy and pure awareness that gets placed upon the infinitely stretchy fabric of time, space, and consciousness. So human objective materialistic science talks about merely the fabric of time and space. I add in consciousness because that is an essential part of the recipe. In order to truly be empowered, you must add in that pinch of consciousness and know that that is an active variable in the creation and sustenance and perception and experience of reality. The infinitely heavy bowling ball goes on the infinitely stretchy fabric of the cosmos, and there's a vector. Vector means line of force, a pushing down, and the pushing down goes in this direction. And as it does that, let me go through the redo. I'm pressing buttons here, guys. As it does that, it goes through the layers of the rainbow. This amount of stretching stretches it red. When you stretch the fabric of time, space, and consciousness a little bit, you get matter. When you stretch it a little bit more, you start to get emotional energy. When you stretch it even more, then you start to get the intellectual energy of daily waking consciousness. Stretch it even more. Now we are into green, the love tone, love energy. Stretch it even more, the energy of pure communication. Stretch it even more, the energy, oh wait, let me get the proper blue, the energy of pure insight at your Christ chakra. And stretch it even more, then you get to violet, which is the highest frequency within the human octave: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But then you go to white light. So when you stretch this infinitely heavy, infinitely stretchy, rather, when you stretch the infinitely stretchy fabric of the cosmos with an infinitely heavy bowling ball of vector of energy, what you do is you get down to this point here. I'm making a white dot, white light. And that is what I'm drawing, also a figure 8, but you can't see it because it's white on white. That white dot, first of all, white is the culmination in additive color mixing of all of these other colors adding together. So additive color mixing is different than subtractive color mixing. This is fast, but I'll go over it more later in class. You're adding together white light waves. You're adding together light waves as opposed to subtracting light waves by using pigments and their physicality structure in the physical world. That's what it's like when you paint with paint. But when you paint with pure light and with your body and with your levels of beingness in the world, you add up red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet of your body, and it all adds up to white light. And white light is where you come from. And the infinitely stretched fabric of the cosmos goes down to here or into here. That is the infinity point. So basically what has happened is you have taken this potentiality world of time, space, consciousness, added energy to it, stretched it into these layers. Each layer becomes a higher frequency. That's what I'm singing. When you hear my voice singing, this note is going higher in frequency. The frequency, I did that in lesson 1, is about how short the wavelength is and also how fast the waves move past. And so what I just hear, I'll move back to my face so you can see this a little bit better. Wavelength is this long, and then frequency is how fast the troughs or peaks move past a particular face, like past my nose. So here's like a slow wave, a slightly faster wave, a super fast wave, and here's like the frequency is moving so fast that I can't even make my pen wiggle that fast. That infinite wiggling of frequency is what happens when you stretch the fabric of time, space, and consciousness to the infinity point. It moves infinitely fast. So in terms of objective materialist science, science and physics describes the singularity as the place in a black hole where all of the rules of physicality break down and no longer make sense. So we have rules of physics, like the laws of gravity, the laws of thermodynamics, the laws of all the things that make an apple fall from a tree onto Newton's head. Those laws all break down when you get to the singularity or the infinitely stretched point of time, space, and consciousness, and the rules of reality no longer make sense. In terms of scientific perception or objective materialist perception, all of that perception is done through the extrasensory modality known as mathematics and arithmetic. So they are not necessarily making a telescope and looking at the singularity and seeing the rules of the cosmos break down. What they do is an extensive series of math. If this, then this, if this, then this, if this, then this, then this, then this, then this breaks down over here. That is what higher dimensional math is like in the human objective materialist world. So it's not even necessarily a 1 + 1 + 2 + 3 + 4 + 5 million equals this number over here. It's a logic structure. So in the mathematical logic structure that humans use as a form of extrasensory perception, they can see and sense and feel into that level of abstract reality. Well, if things are going on like this over here, and then you're going to stretch this much, then that's going to be the answer. And the answer is does not compute, or the answer is the rules of reality break down. I perceive reality differently, even though I'm super into math, but I understand math now as a language and a way of articulating something that I see directly with my insight. All of this and the understanding of what the torus is and these energy vectors heading to the inside, I perceive directly with my insight. And this is my Christ mind, non-denominational, not affiliated with a earth church, clear on that, and open to all organisms and open to all people and all creatures to be able to access this type of direct seeing and direct knowing that is also part of mercy, forgiveness, and compassion. This is literally what helps to lift us up out of denser embodiment hell realms of the knowingness of how time and reality is actually structured. So when you begin to perceive with pure insight, you are able to see things that science has to logic its way up to, like a lever. Like I'm going to kind of bootstrap myself on up and then lever myself on up and kind of leapfrog over here. That's what the science and math world does to reach these conclusions, that through the direct insight, the direct connection to Christ comprehension and direct, I want to use the word understanding, even though I know that there's cultural isms around that word right now, with the direct nourishment of that pure data, light, intelligence coming inside of you helps you to understand what is happening in that moment. When at the super stretchy fabric of the cosmos, at the singularity, it is both, let me put down my thing so I can gesture. It is both the source of consciousness that you are emanating from, you emanate outward into physical embodiment reality, and then it is the destination that you emanate back to. It is a place where everything lives. It is the infinite whole. It is the zeroth dimension. It is the thing that existed or exists beyond time, space, and dimensionality before the unfoldment or effulgence or outward expansion of everything that we know as color, time, form, this whole entire consciousness journey. That point exists and existed. Let me go back to my whiteboard so that I can do more. And hold on, I'm also going to do a little bit more taking care of my throat here while I drink. Let me change to a different color. So this area right here, this is the singularity. This is infinity. First of all, it's infinity because all of these toroidal structures, like I am right now drawing a figure 8, and I'm drawing another figure 8, and I'm drawing another figure 8. It's not perfect because, you know, the digital pen doesn't work perfectly, but from the flow of my pen, you can kind of get an idea that all of these, and that's a 3-dimensional drawing, not a 2-dimensional drawing, all of these figure 8s and hoops and loops, they all converge and go through here. That is the singularity. That singularity is like, let's call it a rune. I'm going to draw a box here because we mostly think of boxes are what we live in. Like I live in an apartment, it's shaped like a box. Now I'm going to draw a doorway over here. This is a singularity that's somewhere else. Maybe it's in the center of you. Maybe it's in the center of an atom. Here I'm going to draw another doorway. I'm going to make it here like this is like your little doorknob. And here's another doorway. And here's a little doorknob. Every single one of these doorways, even if it is in a different place, like this one exists in the year 36 BC, and then this one exists 93 million miles away, and then this one exists on the planet Jupiter. Every single one of these doorways opens up to infinity. And it's not different infinities, it's the same infinity. Every single one of these doorways opens up to the singularity. Not many singularities, that would be called a multiplicity. One singularity, the singularity. Huge, huge, huge emphasis on this. We'll emphasize it throughout the experience of sharing for you in this class. There are multiple nodes or doorways or windows. Think about even in just your body. Your body has trillions of cells. Let's talk about the somatic cell. So over here, this was an atom. That's like kind of almost a quantum state of potential. Now let's draw a cell, because guess what? It's going to look exactly the same. Exactly the emphasis same. This is the nucleus of your cell. These are, again, cross sections of something that's spherical. In the nucleus of your cell, let's draw some wiggling DNA. There's your DNA presence in the center of your cell, all right, which is different than, of course, the atomic structure. And then this area where I'm wiggling over here, that's your cell membrane. So you have inside and outside, extracellular goo, intracellular goo. Guess what? At the center of your nucleus, of your somatic cell, of your physicality body, your DNA and its activity there represents a connection to the source or to the infinity place. This is a doorway. Let's draw a doorway. Let's make DNA is the knob of the doorway, and that opens up to infinity. Your body is made of trillions of somatic cells that are your own DNA dancing inside of yourself. And every single one of them has a doorway that goes to infinity. And that's just of your cells. And your cells, let's do down over to here, are made up of atoms. And your atoms have however many trillions, uncountable numbers of atoms you have doorways into infinity. Not the most perfect drawn, but you are getting the idea of what I'm talking about. Every single one of these is a doorway to infinity. And then the larger structure of who you are as a human, if we draw a big person here, like here's your head, here's your arms and legs sticking out. This is a stick figure. It's not perfect. Here's your feet down here. You have a center at the center of you. That is singularity at the center of you. The planetary structure that you're on, again, flat earth people, please set aside your preferences for the moment for the purpose of this conversation to be comfortable with the verbiage that I'm using. The planetary structure has a singularity at its center. And then I was drawing this structure here as the star that has a singularity at the center of it. Let's go even further. I am now drawing kind of a spiral galaxy. Here are the many different arms of the galaxy. So each one of these arms is made up of an almost uncountable number of stars here, little tiny dots, lots of little dots, lots of little dots. Every single one of those is one star, like this red sun star that is in our sky. And at the center of, let me get a different color. At the center of the galaxy is a big black dot that is known as a supermassive black hole. It's a huge gravitational structure. This is science talk. It's accurate too in terms of consciousness. A black hole is this stretching of the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. You have a big stretched area right there. It stretches so much that it stretches the fabric of time, space, and consciousness to the infinity point. And it is supermassive in the sense that it creates a big, giant amount of gravity because you have to have a lot of glue, a lot of coherence to keep together all of these star presences as one whole thing. It is created by the whirling and swirling energies, whirling and swirling amidst itself. At the center of that black hole is also the singularity or singularity. It is also infinity. It is also the, oh, wait, I want to rewind. It is also a doorway to infinity, doorway to infinity. So let's take this box over here, that's the doorway to infinity, and let's put it going over here to this supermassive, supergalactic black hole that emanates from there. Now you're starting to understand how all of these things emanate from to and from themselves. Hold on one moment, collecting my thoughts. I want to talk about consciousness and the journey of consciousness and light. I'm going to use purple as a consciousness light color here. The direction of where this stuff comes from and goes to. Consciousness emanates from this supermassive black hole, big, giant, intelligence presence, grand scale, galactic scale, big, 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 and long, long, long over time. Presence that exists for a very big, long amount of time. Consciousness comes from here, and I'm going to make a wiggly line, travels to our sun. It does not have to travel very far. I just made a long wiggly line, but what actually happens is the folding of time, space, and consciousness makes that distance actually zero, because this is the zeroth dimension, because all of these places overlap, because all of these consciousnesses overlap, because all of these presences actually embody the same place. So as consciousness is residing here at this supermassive black hole, it also is residing or being born here at the center of our sun star. And light is emanated from our sun as a result. That is the light that we see with our physical eyes. That is also high energy particles and waves that we cannot perceive as physical light. Just adjusting my chair. They might be perceived as neutrinos or X-rays or any of the other stuff that is constantly emanated from and flying off of our sun. And that would fry you if you didn't have Earth's magnetosphere to protect you and your own individual energy presence to protect you. So you have to have all of these intervening layers of being in order to protect you from being overwhelmed by the presence. High intensity is a better word, by the intense presence of pure consciousness energy that comes from the supermassive black hole. And this is emanated from there, but also not even the origin. What I'm trying to say is this is like divine mystery, great mystery. I had one teacher, he's a lovely person, he's still on earth, but he would say, you ask this question and this question, and this question, this question, this question. At a certain point, the answer that you get is great mystery. It's kind of like, whoa, great mystery. Like you have superseded the level of what your personal realm of your personal supercomputer can understand. So the galactic scale consciousness levels emanate from the supermassive black hole, but they also emanate from a larger substrate that's pretty much so large, like it can't be put into words easily or comprehended easily with our brain mind equipment right now, but know that it is there. Comes from the galaxy, folding of time and space to the center of our sun star, is emitted then as waves of physicality light and also waves of time, space, presence, possibilities, and probabilities. And those are the things that comprise the layers of the chakras. I'll go to the chakra picture now let me do share screen to this. Goes to over here, just want to get a color. Good, goes over here, and I have a color that you can see, goes over here and becomes emanated as all of this body of light. This is consciousness light. So you have your physicality body, and your physicality body sees physicality light, and you can navigate your world. But your insight that is here in the center of your forehead, in the center of your brain mind being, and is emanated outward from there, perceives all of this light, which is made of time and potentiality. So your insight can perceive time. You can perceive what's happening in the future, the potentials of the future, and you can also perceive the book of a person that's been written already. Like, oh, I can see this area over here on your chakra. You've got this and this and this event in your past. What is known as your past? Even though it might not look like that, what it might look like is here, I'm going to draw a stick figure behind this guy. Because again, the digital pen is not that easy to work with. And then I'm going to draw another stick figure that's even smaller, going backwards in perspective, because we are trained to understand the world in terms of perspective through years of Western art. And then here's a little tiny one. Here's a little tiny guy. So we've got, this is you of yesterday. This is you of 10 years ago. And this is you like maybe when you were 3 years old. A person who can see layers of time on an anthropomorphic level might see you in that way. Here's who you are today. And then, oh, you get that scar from that injury that happened then, or you got that thing, that disease that emanated from something that happened in your body form here. That's on an anthropomorphic level. And then a non-anthropomorphic seer might see all of these as, I see there is a structure in your chakra here that is askew, or a structure in your chakra here that is askew. And it's not even coming through the human interpretation level. It is just a pure understanding of how events in the past have culminated in this moment now. And then a seer can also anticipate the future. Here are radiant lines of possibility and probability stretching forward, timelines stretching forward into your future. And you can see, well, if you do blah, 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 you'll be going over here. I'm so sorry that I'm having an interruption with the phone. Hold on one moment. I'm going to pause my recording. Apologies for any distractions that just went on there, because we're talking about important stuff and we're in the flow. About being able to perceive going forward. Go back to my share screen. Of this guy right here. I lost my wiggly lines, but being able to perceive of the various different possible futures going forward. If you do this thing on this timeline, this will happen. Choose your own adventure novel. If you do this thing on this timeline, this will happen. So if you go here, this is going to happen. If you align with this reality, here I am. My chakras are aligned over here. I'm flying in this direction in time. This is going to happen. Now I'm changing, calibrating, recalibrating, boom. Launch, lift off. I'm going in this direction now. Different alignments cause different future events to happen in reality. I am at the point where I can literally feel these alignments and recalibrations happening. They happen from doing different energy exercises, some of which can be breathing in and regathering my energy and recentering. And a lot of the time it also is a spinal realignment where I'm just like, I'm trying to say these recalibrations don't have to be a muscular recalibration or a big thing. Sometimes I just make an inward decision where I'm like, oh, I realize I'm thinking in this direction. I simply decide to think differently, and all of a sudden, click, everything is different. I'm very mindful of my mind practice during my day, where you might often see me be like posture check, where I'm kind of like, I'm going down, I'm going onto the timelines that are going towards the membrane of death. And all of a sudden I'll be like, wait, bring my energy up and realigning with those perfect, divinely aligned, ideal timelines of health, vitality, continued consciousness. And our whole goal here is the aha moment, the I am God moment, culminating in our own lives like a spark plug or a neural jump back to that source and that moment of reconnection of, I am divine, I am divinity, I am God. And I always say this in class to clarify. I'm not merely saying in this moment, Aurora is God, although Aurora is God. Each one of you, each one of us, each molecule in your body of awareness, each light photon of awareness, each dog and butterfly in the world culminates on that ascension timeline and has that spark gap moment where the spark jumps and you reconnect with God or pure divinity, and then are able to have that remembering or reconnection, re-recognition of self that I am God. And that is a synchronized moment of reconnection and recognition of self that we all have. Even if we have like, that guy had it 10 years ago and that guy is going to have it in 52 years, understand that this is beyond time and space. That's why I understand that your ascension is perfect. It is inevitable. All these things are happening in inevitable, perfect divine timing, and that you will be synchronized just as you need to be. You will have your moment. Aha, I am God, and your I am God connects with all of these other moments of I am God, just like there is only one singularity. You really should look at the singularity. Where is my magical scarf? I talk about this like I'm a magician. Like, I will pull this out of my sleeve. Here's the fabric of time, space, and consciousness. It's shaped like a rainbow scarf. And there are, these pokey points, like I've stretched the fabric there and I've stretched the fabric there. Well, this is me. And this is one of you, or another molecule, or a sun, or something like that. And everybody's having their I am God culminative moment, and it all culminates together. And you could imagine this fabric then being gathered a million times. Like, here's another loop gathering. Here's another pokey place where I'm looped and I'm gathering and I'm putting it all together. Gather my magical scarf fabric 10 million times and put it all together in that one tiny convergence point. That is what the I am God ascension moment is. Thank you, everyone. And the flowers are still standing. I'm being silly, but we need some lightheartedness too. The folding of time, space, and consciousness relates to everything super serious that I was just telling you about the singularity, how science sees the singularity, and how we as spiritual aspirants and pure insight perceivers talk about singularity. The singularity is single by definition. I'm doing really good at getting over this material too. I'm telling you, lesson two is jam-packed. What I want to do now is build for you the cosmos. I can clear all of this out. So this was all of doorways to infinity, all your doorways to infinity, but I'm erasing it all now. I'm erasing it all. I'm erasing it all. I'm erasing it all. I'm erasing it all. And we're just going to start off with one little doorway, one little zeroth dimension. There we go. Now we're in the void, everyone. Nothing is going on. I'm going to start off with one dot. That is the zeroth dimension. That is infinity. I make the infinity symbol. Now I'm going to erase it so we just have a perfectly clear everything. Where I'm scribbling, nothing else exists. That actually, none of that scribble exists, because everything that can possibly exist only exists in one little tiny overlapping convergence point. It is the point of every energy. It is the point of pure potential. It is the point of everything beingness, everything that can possibly exist, that ever will exist, that ever has existed, exists there, overlapping in that moment, and is not anywhere else or any when else. This is the beginning, or the first position, like in ballet. First position, everyone, the zeroth dimension. It is called the zeroth dimension. I have to acculturate this now, not because it is worth nothing, but because it is worth everything. So in our world, being a zero is like, oh, what a zero, like you're worth nothing. No, zero is pure potential. It is circular, spherical, endless loop. It is everythingness, and it is where we come from. And it's the zeroth dimension, because in this dimension math talk, it requires zero amount of information to talk about or exemplify where something is. You don't have to give it an address. It is there. Everything is there. You don't have to put an address on the letter to mail it to make energy go there. It is there. Everything is there. Everything is in presence there. Again, we'll talk about this concept over and over in this class. It is so profound and is at the foundation of all the freedoms that we aspire to. This simple remembering, because we are in the, oh, the world has all expanded and we're all out here and we're all over this. And we take that as the natural matter of course. Need to be reminded of the fact that we also, even while we are all out here, all expanded, are concurrently there at the inevitability place, at the point of infinity, at the point of overlappingness, at the point where everything exists before, quote unquote, in nonlinear time, but before any of this stuff where I'm scribbling ever expanded or existed, everything exists or did exist or will exist there. It is the zeroth dimension. The biggest leap of consciousness that ever happened was when some little part of the zeroth dimension had to think and imagine to itself, what if a little tiny part of me or aspect of me could be somehow not there, here, now, but somehow out there, somewhere else, then when? And I also, in my lesson 2 stuff, have my first tirade against the sense of sacred geometry, because I'm like, geometry just is about describing the measuring of earth, blah, blah, blah. I'm just less tirading now, but I feel very strongly about this. So I don't necessarily call this sacred geometry, but I do use for this the term higher dimensional language of pure frequency. The commonality that it has with the sense of the school of sacred geometry is the sense of having motives or volition or consciousness ascribe to these aspects of pure energy and pure potential, that there is a somethingness, a motivation that makes this little guy or this little person over here think, what would it be like if there was a part of me over here? So sacred geometry ascribes consciousness and motivations to pure geometric forms. And I do that too, but this is not just about measuring earth. This is about measuring time, space, probabilities, possibilities, things that are beyond earth. So that's why we'll call it higher dimensional language, okay? But I'm just not that much on the aspect of rants and tirades as I once was, perhaps when I had not been through so many, very many things. So the zeroth dimension, all of this energy consciousness distilled into one point at some moment had to have the choice and say, what if a little part of me wasn't with me, but was over here instead? That's the big leap. That is the big thing that had to happen in order for any of dimensionality to begin to unfold. That big concept. What if part of me wasn't actually all here with me where everything is, and that's the only thing that ever can exist and nothing else exists, but was somehow over there or in a different spot or elsewhere or else when? As soon as that thought happened and a little something elsewhere went elsewhere, that is the creation of a line, the first dimension. You can understand the line as a line, but you can also understand it making many, many dots, many, many, many zeroth dimensions lined up, shoulder to shoulder next to each other, creates a line. Oh, that was a terrible line, but you understand what I'm trying to do with my wiggly pen here. There we go, a line. A line is called the first dimension. because it requires one piece of information to determine where a point is upon the line. So is that point over here at number 1? Is it over here at number 2? Is it over here at number 10? This is a numbers line. You might remember this from your school days in math. Don't be afraid. Math is fun. Math is our friend. One piece of information to determine the position of a point on a line. Then the next thing is the leap of consciousness that goes perpendicular to that initial leap. So here we had this leap in any direction. It could be leap here, leap here, leap here, leap towards you off of the screen. Any direction is perpendicular to the zeroth direction. This line is going in this direction. Therefore, a perpendicular direction to leap of consciousness into is this way, what we would call sideways. The leap of consciousness is always perpendicular to the initial vector or force. So now we line up many, many lines next to each other. They are perpendicular to the initial line of force. These lines all line up together and they create what we are familiar with and what we know as a plane. A plane requires both an X piece of information and a Y piece of information, two pieces of information to describe and determine the position of a point on a plane. So with the number line, we only have to have one piece of information. The plane, we have to have two pieces of information. It's the second dimension. Then if we jump perpendicular to the second dimension, I'll get a different color because it's going to start to get confusing, everyone. So get ready. Perpendicular to the second dimension is jumping off of the flat plane. This is also like jumping off of the flat plane of time, jumping up in this direction. That is perpendicular to the flat table or flat plane. And now I'm going to draw these kind of, looking like playing cards or pieces of paper that are stacked up on top of each other. I'm stacking up, I'm stacking up, I'm stacking up. Many pieces of paper or many playing cards stacked up together. What does it make? Just looking at my notes over here. It makes a cube. And this cube is three-dimensional reality here. I'm trying to make a decent cube so you can see what I'm talking about. Three-dimensional reality. And we, of course, are looking at something through the magic of perspective, but you see through my crazy line drawing, that is a box. A three-dimensional box has both an X, that doesn't look like an X, but a Y, and a Z axis. That's height, width, and depth. That tells us where a dot is within the third dimensional reality box. The zeroth through the third dimension are known in science talk as the spatial dimensions. They describe our first, second, and third dimensional realities that we perceive with our physicality form of our body being, of our eyes. You can see the world around you. You can see that you live in a box. Your house is shaped like a box. You can see flat pieces of paper. They're shaped like planes. Everything that we're moving on to beyond this, in this level of discussion, beyond the third dimension, this level of discussion, begins to become something that that science and objective materialism refer to as dimensions of time. These are dimensions that are perceived with your inner eyesight and with your higher dimensional perception, not necessarily with your five senses, but you certainly experience them. Now let's say, what is perpendicular to the third dimension? Now, when I ask this question, it's a trick question because you can't, I'm like, point to it. Point to the direction that is perpendicular to the third dimension. And that's a trick question that I won't, prank you with, because the answer is, unless you have a clock on your wrist or something like that, you can't point to it. The answer is time. So what you would have to do is point to, here is let's say this is a timeline. That's the past and you're moving forward in the time vector into the future. Here is a box of the future. It looks more like a rectangle, but rectangles can be shaped as boxes too. And this future box has another future box. I'm just doing these very quick drawings, but this has another future box and another future box and another future box. These are moments of time. They are separated on the Planck length. This is a box going into the past. And of course, I'm going to simplify and just draw squares, but here's another box going into the past through the magic of perspective, all the way on back until a tiny box that is the beginning of your moment. Maybe it's when you're birth or the beginning of your time. So all of these boxes telescope backwards in time, and all of these boxes telescope forwards in time. And what you have then is a timeline. So what you have done is said, this is one box, is one moment in time. It's one version of you. You could think of this as one stick figure, one body. You've got one body. That's one body that you define as you, as self. Then you have all of these selves that go back into the past. It's not just potentials. You literally lived in other bodies. That's your body of when you were 3 years old. It's still back there. You don't live, wait, get that arm back. You don't live in that body of when you were 3 years old. It's still back there. That's still you. You're 3 years old. You're a little tiny kid. What happened was you time jumped, boom, 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 into this moment now. And guess what, my friends? You're alive. You're going to stay alive. You're going to keep on time jumping into the future, into the future. You are going to keep on time jumping into the future. And if you do it right, you keep on jumping and you never stop. That's the idea. And that's longevity. That's the non-necessity of death. This whole idea of, yes, one day you will jump into a brick wall and you will die, like hit the membrane of death. No, if you're able to see with your eye of insight, you can guide yourself through time and keep on jumping into the bodies that are regenerative, healthy, and do not hit a brick wall of time. This moment right now is an important and profound moment in your life where you're actually getting the rectification program that, wait, you mean I don't have to die? That is correct. You don't have to die. So what I just drew was a blue timeline. Now I'm going to come over here. That timeline of many, many boxes. I'm going to draw it here as a simplification. Now we do a perpendicular jump from one timeline perpendicular to it. What's perpendicular to that? Just like the other lines that we lined up. These are like pencils lining up or like your fingers lining up on your hand, and they line up and they create many, many timelines together, creates a time plane. Please understand that I'm drawing these as squares and boxes, but that this world that I'm describing is actually circular and spherical. And I'll get into that too. Because like the stretchy fabric of time, space, and consciousness, you put a bowling ball on top of here and it stretches, that actually is a sphere. I would actually draw it more accurately, like imagine that these are lines of latitude and longitude. I'm exemplifying a sphere with my perspective lines here. That's actually what time is shaped like. And then when you put these vectors of forces that go inward like this and like this, that's the dimpling of time, space, and consciousness to create the 4 vortex chakra shape. But I do this through flat planes and boxes in the beginning to try to make things easier and more perceptive to your perception. Let me also hold on one moment. You know that I get so my voice gets so tired from a lot of drinking, from a lot of talking. Getting my beautiful structured water. Beautiful structured water. For the ease of your perception as students and beginning to create cognitive pathways and comprehension about this, I present time to you as a flat plane, even as you understand that it is a spherical, extremely stretchy beach ball or balloon. So there we have a time plane. And again, let's say you have a time, I'm on a timeline, I'm over here, I'm this dot on this timeline. You have an X and a Y coordinate to describe where you are in time. But that's not the end of the journey of time. Let's choose a different color. Because what's perpendicular to the time plane this way, that is stacking up, like stacking up playing cards. Now you're going to create a time cube. Here's another plane, here's another plane, here's another plane. And now we're creating a time cube. This time cube is made up of multiple layers of time potentials and potentiality. And now I'm making a large pink dot that's kind of at the center of that box. In order to describe where you are in that box, you now need to have an X amount of information, Y amount of information, and a Z amount of information. Which layer of reality are you within? Which layer of dimensionality are you within? And that's not the end of the journey, because once you create a box like that, then you create a line of boxes telescoping backwards and a line of boxes telescoping forwards. So let's make, here are a bunch of, these should be cubes or boxes, but I'm just making them as squares moving forward. Some of them don't even look like squares. That's a trapezoid. I can't even listen. It's a trapezoid. I'm joking. But there you have a timeline that is made up of a time cube that is made up of time planes. And in this way, we continue to build dimensionality. So we started out with the zeroth dimension, that's 0. A line is 1, a plane is 2, third dimensionality is 3. This line of many third dimensional boxes is 4th. This multiple, many timelines of fourth dimensional realities lined up together is 5th. This pink box is the 6th. This long line of pink boxes is the 7th. Let's do another one. Let's do the 8th dimension. I'm lining up many, many timelines of pink boxes next to each other. And guess what? I'm making a time plane that is made up of the 8th dimension. And now we need to have even more information to describe in terms of variables where that is. And the 8th dimension will then become the 9th dimension if I choose a different color when we turn it into a box. I'm turning it into a box. I'm making more layers go on top of it. Like you can do this actually infinitely, but we will say that there are like 10 or 12 dimensions. And it is always that same basic concept of point, line, plane. I will also say that I, have worked this into my information. There are really good YouTube videos that are made by Rob Bryanton, Imagining the 10 Dimensions. He does excellent animations and excellent expositions, expository, expanded is the word I'm looking for, an expanded way of being able to say and describe what I have just described to you in terms of integrating that into my own class. Wait, let me just take care of myself here. So once again, Bryanton, Bryanton. I urge you to look into his work. He's on YouTube, and these are like 10 years old. These videos or video series is 10 years old. It's very worth it. So I want to be open to questions, and I know that there's a few things down here in the chat. I've just totally blown your socks off. Let me go and read through some of these comments, because that's not the end. That's just like, I've just given you a little amuse-bouche. That's your appetizer for your appetizer. You haven't even gotten the everything of the nourishment of the full lasagna with meat sauce yet. And I'm reading through. Cheryl, I love what you wrote about Cheeky. There's like, we're doing math. We're going to need a cute dog. Yes, you need a cute dog. Hug a cute dog. That definitely helps a lot. And Cheryl says, I love the way you illustrate the different dimensions with lines and stacked sheets of paper and boxes and whatnot. Time is a very slippery concept. It is a challenge for us to be able to cognitively comprehend it and then grasp it in a way that we are empowered. Time is literally invisible. It is not visible to us. And we can also see, like if you're in a river, you see the flow of time, you see water flowing by, but that river has changed its path. At one point, there was a boulder in the river and it went around the boulder. At another point, there was a drought. There was no time river. This is a difficult perspective to achieve for those of us that are fish swimming in the river. When you're in the medium of time and you're submerged in time, it's just like, yeah, this is just this stuff that's around. It's just around. It's just what's normal. So what we're trying to do in becoming multidimensional, higher dimensional perceivers, getting up to that culminative moment, is to be able to understand you are submerged within a sea of time. You are made of time. Literally, your body is made of light. You are made of solidified light, which is matter. Matter is intimately related to time. All of these teachings that I give to you are empowerment teachings, not merely abstractions or something where it's like, oh, that's nice. Like now we have to go deal with life and, the car and buying coffee and all these things, mundanities. These are beyond mere flights of fancy that distract you from your mundanities. These are empowerment concepts that should inform your day-to-day moments as you begin to align with different realities. I just thought a different thought. I aligned with a different reality. And then we also get into reality shifting, reality recreation, in the sense of being able to bend and fold time, space, and consciousness, rearrange reality, everything that you're doing on a DNA level into things that have greater potentiality. So this is, again, just learning the basic chords. You are becoming virtuosos. You are learning the basic chords of how time is structured and how dimensionality is even structured. Yeah, Billy, he recognized my Steve Miller reference, Into the Future, and it's got that ring delay on it. I use that. It's a sonic tool in my music all the time. It's a type of delay. No, we just got a little, a little interference as I'm talking about music stuff. But yeah, sometimes like in music, you can have like, here's a strike of the instrument, but then you put a reverb on it that makes it go ka-chunk, 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 ka-chunk. And that's, to me, a sonic equivalent of hearing time. So that yeah, old Steve Miller Fly Like an Eagle song. So you got my reference. Thank you for that. And Cheryl is agreeing. Marion says, you make a hard concept very easy to understand. Thank you. I am so happy to do it. And that is also part of my job as being a cosmic teacher here, and is what I love to do. The paintings that I do, the music that I make, and the feelings of it, and also what I jokingly call the flapping of my moving mouth parts, the talking with my words, but also you guys know, and those who are in consent that give me receptivity, I'm also always beaming directly at you, because this is slow and laborious and it can be misinterpreted, but I'm beaming these pictures right at your inner movie screens and your concepts. Eleanor has a little question. She says, if time left verbally would be quicker. Help me to understand your question more. Oh, I think I understand.
No, I have a question, and I was saying if to ask it verbally would be quicker than write it out.
Do it. Thank you so much. Yes, you have about 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
Oh, if I don't know if you can bring back the sketch, the last sketch you had made.
Yes, let's do
or,
it.
So you had shown that the time plane was shown like that with, oh yeah, it's not there anymore. It was before that. So when you were showing that the time plane of the fifth dimension was actually more spherical, upon which, you know, the four forces apply, which creates the vortex, four-lobe vortex shape.
Yes.
And I was just wondering then the sixth dimension, which is then the time cube, if you could also just sketch out through the spherical how that then looks, if it's available. Yeah.
Awesome question. So perceptive. And then the answer would be, imagine I have another sphere over here and another sphere over here and another one. I'm going to make it tiny going back. So I would end up having a line of spheres going back in that direction. And remember, each one of these spheres is actually shaped like a chakra system. I'm having so much difficulty like controlling the pen, but you got it. Each one of these would be with the four vortex shape in there. So each one of these would look like multiple chakras going backwards. Here, maybe it might just be easier if you have no idea how difficult it is to like make this pen work. Oh, I'm complaining. I'm griping so much, everyone. Life is so hard. Life is so hard. But each one of these would be going back, 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 back. So each one of these is a stretched fabric with these vectors going to the center. And you can imagine it telescoping all the way back. That would be the sixth dimension. So we've got a stretched time sphere stretched into the four vortex shape, and then many, many, many four vortex shapes going backwards and forwards into a timeline. And then you also are going to move perpendicular with all these stretched vortex shapes. You make a time plane and then a time cube of stretched vortex shapes. And then understand all of this is also moving energy. So through that time cube, you would have energy pathways that go around a sphere, 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 around this sphere, then around this sphere, then around this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. All of these, I'm trying to say, wiggly lasagna-shaped sine waves that would be going and bouncing around through this matrix. And if I go back to my face, that is actually what our interlocking lives are like. That you could imagine one packet of time with all of these figure eights moving in the four vortex shape, and your packet of four vortexes is connected directly to yourself in other life experiences, which happen to look like all of these other people that are out here, like that self as you, that self as you, that self as you, that self as dog, that self as microbe, that self as butterfly. So it is a perfect tessellation. Tessellation means tiling, or puzzle pieces all fitting together perfectly of all of these figure eight dimpled time spheres that all have energy that flows in perfect figure eights and perfect waterfalls around it, but also the time consciousness presence impulse can exit your personal vortex shape and flow to another. So here's one sphere and I'm flowing over the mountaintop of one sphere, and here's another one. Now I'm flowing under the, the smiley face shape of the next one. Ups and downs, the energy impulse of pure consciousness flows throughout lives and lifetimes and lifespans and multiple existences. So that's the real great mystery. Higher dimensional perspective is the so welcome. Great question, Eleanor. Very, very, very prescient question. To be able to expand the perspective that much to be able to see the interconnectedness of all of these organisms. So I am on a bit of a schedule right now in my life, and that is why I have to close this presentation and this recording for this moment. However, we will reassemble on Tuesday morning at 11 Pacific time, where I will continue with talking in depth about the concepts that are in lesson 2 of level 1. I encourage everyone to go back and check it out, and get your intellectual minds get ready to be connected to all this information. And I'll keep going because there's so much. We're going to go into magnets and magnetism, dipole magnets. What is a solenoid? What is the wrapping of, or it's called supercoiling of DNA at a somatic level? Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thank you for being here. Thank you for everyone who got up early with coffee and was able to be here. And thank you to everybody who catches the recording, because I know life is crazy and can't always be here. We're going to go into DNA histones and wrapping. Oh, thank you, Eleanor. It's such a privilege to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Right back to you. I know you are in Brussels. I'm happy that we're able to have the time overlaps to be able to make it possible for us to do this. And I'm going to keep on talking in this class about how to build the dimensions. What is singularity? What is the singularity? How that profound concept relates to this flying rainbow lasagna, because spoiler alert, when you really get the singularity, you understand, wait a minute, it's down here and it's up here, but it's in both places at the same time. It's moving super, super, super fast. It's in me, it's in you, and it's in both places, and it's moving super, 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 duper fast. That's spoiler alert for what will happen as the quote unquote season goes on in our beautiful journey of flying rainbow lasagna. Billy says, what a great morning. Thank you, Aurora. Don't know how you do it. Good day, everyone. I wish a beautiful day to everyone. And also, I know that we're coming up on holiday season. I wish you profound peace, joy, all the best things, renewal, the kindness that we feel to others and the kindness that we give to others, generosity of spirit, and most importantly, hopefulness in dark times. That is what these celebrations about this time of year is all about, bringing light to dark times. We have sometimes challenges or struggles or other times of ignorance or feeling isolated or whatever it is, just really needing the sunshine. I'm in sunny California. I will beam sunshine to all of you, and also encourage you on your paths. Sunshine and small tidbits and gifts and good things in dark times, and we make it through to the other side. And then at some point, it's the beautiful summertime and there's abundant sunshine and everything is wonderful. So I'll leave on that note. Thank you so much, everyone.